Alright, so this is going to be part 6, I believe, of What If Deku Had All for One. So with that being said, let's just roll that intro.
They took it to 10.
Let me tell you how I come through with the 1-2, kicking shit like kung fu. Treat a bad bitch like she average. I'm a savage, little hoe, what you want do? I'm about cash if the raw fast. I'ma get that little nigga by any means.
Alright, so the last part, I did a poll to see if you guys wanted me to do the movie or the students versus teachers, and most people, like, it was like a 70% or 75% towards the movie idea instead of the teacher. So I'm going to do the movie first, and I'm going to make this kind of our 600 subscriber special, since it is a movie, and I did that for the 400 or 300, I'm not sure, but I did that with Prototype, and this one's going to be an extra long video since it's going through the movie storyline. And also I like to make this quick kind of announcement, I guess. So I recently did a review on Kaguya-sama, right? And it has more views than it does average watch time, and I feel kind of bad about that. So I was wondering if you guys could go and watch that video. I know that most people don't go to my channel for, reviews, but I spent a lot of time making that video, and it is probably one of my videos that took the longest to make. Not only finding all the different like points to put in that video, but also finding the manga panels and things like that. So to see it have like less than a minute of average watch time, I feel really bad about that. So I was wondering if you guys could go and watch that. Like I said, I know like it won't be like a popular thing on my channel, but I would want at least some people to watch it, right? So I know there's like probably like I think 2 people who watched through all of it. So yeah, I appreciate those people. But anyways, let's get into the what if actually. Oh yeah, one thing to mention, I also have a Twitter. So if you guys want to DM me for anything like what ifs or stuff like that, my DMs are open. So it's probably gonna be a link in the description. Just go and follow me. I don't really post that much. It was just a Twitter that I just use for like some games and things like that. So I don't know, I might start using it more if more people follow. So if you want to DM me for some what ifs, then you could just tell me, and I could do it. So actual what if now. Since Deku won the sports festival, he would be able to have that kind of invite to Island like Bakugo did. So he would be able to invite a +1, and that +1 would be, in my opinion, would be Shinso. And they say that last time I got a comment about how, like, if Shinso joins the class, then who in 1A gets kicked out. And I was thinking about that, and like, I don't know if they would actually kick out anyone, since they all tried their best. So I'm not sure. If you guys want someone to be kicked out, then you guys can tell me, but for right now, I'm not gonna have anyone kicked out. And also the thing about the Sasquatch thing that I said last time about the guy with the Sasquatch powers, I know that one person in class 1B has a similar quirk. It's just that his thing is like a mutation quirk, while the Sasquatch like villain was like a transformation quirk. So it's a little bit different. So let's get back into the what if. So he would give Shinso the other invite, and since they're going to the same place, I think All Might, Shinso, and Mirio would all go on the same like private jet that All Might goes on. So they would go to Island together, because not only is Midoriya, the winner of the sports festival, but he's also one of All Might's like personal students, right? Since they've been working together for so long. And some people were upset that I gave Shinso Stain's quirk, but a lot of people suggested it, right? And it kind of like works with his power, since if he can't convince anyone to like talk to him, then he could just, you know, cut them and taste their blood, just like how he like, just like in a case where people know about his quirk already. So I think he would be more kind of like an assassin, someone who like blends into the crowd and maybe asks like a question to the person that he's after, and then when that person answers, he would control them, or he could do like a little like poke, like just go by him and like poke him with like some sort of needle and like taste the blood that way. But anyways, so in this one, I think Shinso would question Deku, was like, are you sure it was right for me to come on this trip with you? And Deku would be like, I see in you that you have the potential to be a great hero. I saw you during the sports festival and you really had that passion that a lot of people with heroic type quirks, as you would put it, don't really have. They have this idea that just because they have a strong quirk that they will become a hero, but you actually try and put that effort in. And at this point, I think Shinso would have the internship that he would get would be with Aizawa. I haven't read too much into the manga, so I don't know if he actually does get that internship in the manga. You guys can tell me down in the comments down below if he actually does in canon. So Shinso would kind of like, he would appreciate what Midori was saying, and Mirio would be there, and he'd be really excited to go to Island, since he gets to see so many different superheroes, and they get to meet All Might's sidekick, so they're all really excited to go. And this is when All Might would kind of like interrupt the conversation, and he would ask like, did you guys remember to pack formal clothes like I asked you? And they would all say yes. So they'd be ready for the party that would happen later on in the day. So they land and they go through that security, and they all like pass through safely and without any problems. And then this is when All Might and the gang go and they start walking around the place, and All Might describes like this island is a place where everyone can use their quirks whenever they want, right? Or however they want, really. So Shinso at this point, I think he'd be somewhat sad, since he doesn't have like a flashy quirk. Even with the one that Midoriya gave him, it's one that you need others to actually work on. And Midoriya will be like, come on, try to cheer up. And then this is when one of the staff members or the tour guide comes, and they recognize that it's All Might, and they would scream, you know, oh my gosh, it's All Might, right? And a flood of paparazzi would go near him, and they would realize that Deku was there, and they would also interview him, since he was, not only was he the winner of the sports festival, but he was also someone that's able to take away quirks. So after a while, they would finally get a break from the paparazzi or the media, and they would start walking around again. And then this is when All Might starts talking about his sidekick, or he talks about a really close friend that he had that still lives here. And they would see this girl hopping on a pogo stick, and then finally she would call out to All Might, and eventually she would come close enough where she would jump into his arms. And this person is actually Melissa, if I remember, that's her name. She would basically, say like, oh, Uncle Might, it's been a while since we've seen you. And he would like swing around, and just how she does, and that's just how All Might does in the movie. And he would ask about if how was her father, and she said that, oh, he's doing great. He just, as a kind of reward, I invited you because he just got finished with his first part in his newest like invention or project, since she doesn't know what the actual thing is. So she thought it would be a good surprise to invite him. So they're like kind of questioning, like, who is this to All Might? Is this his friend? And if so, like, doesn't she seem a little too young to be his friend? And eventually she would like notice the people next to All Might, and she would ask like, oh, who are these young men? And basically All Might would say like, this is Morio, and this is Shinso and Midoriya. And Melissa would like look at Deku and be like, how come you're not wearing your, hero costume or hero outfit? And Deku would kind of be like flustered because she's so close to him, and he would say, well, actually I actually am. If you could see, my suit is actually my hero costume. And then she would put things together and realize that this was the guy at the sports festival, and she recognizes Shinso too, since they got into the semifinals, I think, or the tournament part. So she would realize it's the kid that could like steal quirks. And she would like ask like, oh, what does your suit even do? It seems like you need more protection. And Deku would be like, well, I had the support team infuse some of my hair into the suit, so now it like has some resistance to the quirks that I take, and things like that, right? But the outfit itself doesn't update. Like, let's say Deku gets like a new power, then he would have to update his suit to put different more hair fibers into it to update these resistant to those type of quirks, right? And she would go up to Mirio and say, wow, your outfit's really flashy, what's your quirk? And Mirio would be like, well, my quirk is permutation. I think it's called that, permutation, or yeah. And he would show off a little example where he would go through the ground and come out the other side. But obviously, since his suit is made out of his like hair follicles, he would not or his like hero suit, yeah, so it wouldn't like fall off of him like his normal clothes would. And then finally she would go up to Shinso and ask for his quirk, or she wouldn't really like ask. She would be like, oh, so from what I seen in the sports festival, your quirk is what's it called? Mind control? I don't know if there's like an actual name for it, but I'm pretty sure it's just mind control. But I think that at this point, since Sane's quirk was to control, or to like stop people from moving and like control their bodies with their blood, and Shinso's was just to mind control them by them answering a question or just responding to them in general. I think since they're so similar in the way that the effect that they do, I think they would actually mutate and become like a better quirk. But you guys can give me ideas on how the quirk should evolve at this point. So just comment down below some ideas and I'll see if I can incorporate it into the story. So she would comment on his like suit, right? And his suit would be similar to Aizawa's, since he was he took them as an internship, right? And he just got into this into the sports. He just got not in sports. He just got into the hero course, so he would have to make his own design for a suit. So they would all have their names for their heroes. They would all have their hero names, right? And for Deku, his hero name would be all in one, since he has so many quirks within himself. I don't know what the others would be. I forgot Mirio's hero name. I think it's called like Mammalian or something like that, something to do with like a million. Like he wants to save like a million people. So yeah. And if you're wondering how much of the percentage that of all for one for all that Mirio can use, he could probably use around 50 to 75%, since he's a lot more physically stronger than Deku was. Like a lot. Like for some reason Mirio was able to hurt Kirishima, which doesn't make sense. Like I said before, he has a hardening quirk, so it's like armor, so it doesn't make sense that he could punch him and like hurt him. But I don't know. So All Might would finally introduce them to Melissa. This is the daughter of my friend and my sidekick. So they would go to the David Shields lab to go and like show All Might to him. So Dave and I think the other guy, Sam, they would be working on a thing in their lab, and Sam would say that you guys, you have been working really hard, David, how about we take a break? And then this is when Melissa comes through, and this is when she's David would be like, oh, to what do we owe the pleasure? And Melissa would be like, Dad, I got you something special. I have someone special to meet you. And they would go to the other room, and this is when All Might would appear and hug Dave and swing him around, just how he does in the movie. And then this is when All Might would introduce Dave to his students. And Dave would be like, well, let me introduce myself. And then this is when Deku would be like, no introduction needed. You are All Might's sidekick. You're the one who designed all of his different hero costumes and won many awards for the different support items you made. And this is when David would be like, well, it looks like I don't have to introduce myself. And Deku would be like, well, sorry, right? Like just how he does in the movie. So All Might would be like, well, me and Dave have a lot of catching up to do. How about you and Melissa go around the island and explore a bit and look around at all the sites? So they would do that. And while they're exploring the island, this is when this is when All Might and Dave would actually go to that machine to check All Might's progress on how far his work is going. And it, just like my other what ifs, he would see it would go down for a bit and then go back up pretty fast, since Deku was able to heal him to his prime. So this is when David actually starts to rethink about what he's been doing, especially with the quirk enhancer and the plan that he had for villains to steal it. So we cut back to Midoriya, Melissa, Mirio, and Shinso. So they would all have a great time looking at the different equipment, especially specifically with the sea and water, just how they do in the movie. And I think Mirio and Shinso would be kind of off somewhere, maybe near the side, but still relatively close to them. And then this is when the other girls of class 1A come through. This is when Uraraka would be like, wow, Deku, looks like you're having a great time. And she'd be kind of blushing. And this is when Jiro and Momo come through and say what are you guys on it? Jiro would be kind of jealous in a way, because you guys wanted me to make a Jiro and Deku ship in this one. So she'd be kind of jealous, what are you guys dating on a date or something? And Deku would be like, no, I think you got the wrong idea. And this is when Mirio and Shinso would come through, like, and Deku would be like, "Come on, guys, help me out." And they would kind of laugh at this idea, and they would kind of what's it called? Go with the joke. And I think Mirio, trying to tease Deku, would be like, "Midoriya, when you said you needed some time alone, I didn't think you meant by this." And Jiro would be like, "What is he talking about, Midoriya or Izuku?" And he'd be like, "I think we have somewhat of a misunderstanding. Let's just go somewhere else to go talk about this." And this is when they go to that like kind of cafe area. Well, I'm not sure. I don't remember if the cafe when they go to drink tea, and the part where they do that kind of like obstacle course. I'm not sure which one goes first. But let's just say that they hear it from where they're at, which is currently, I think it's before. So let's scratch that. They don't go to the cafe area first. Before that, they actually hear an explosion and they go and check it out. And they see that Bakugo, Kirishima are doing an obstacle course to see how fast they could do it, right? And he's like watching Bakugo do it, like Deku, and everyone else is watching Bakugo do it, and he gets it within, I think his time was like 14 seconds or something like that. So Kirishima would look behind him and he would notice everyone in class 1A, and he would tell Bakugo this, and he'd be like, "Oh, Deku, it looks like it's you." And Deku would be like, "Oh, how'd you guys get here?" And Kirishima would be like, "Since Bakugo got second place, he was able to get a free pass here, or in the sports festival, I mean, and he was able to bring a +1, so he brought me with him." This is when Jiro would ask or tell Deku like, "Hey, you should try and see your fastest score, right?" And this is when Deku's like, "All right, let's see how far I could get." And basically, he would use a combination of his slowdown time effect or his quirk, and then his teleportation. So the way that this would work is he would slow down time and then teleport to the robot's location, and then stop using time and kind of use a strength enhancing quirk, his muscle augmentation quirk. And this would basically, he would one shot the robots, and he would kind of do this, kind of switching between quirks as he goes through. First he would use muscle, and then he would slow down time, teleport, use his fire, slow down again, teleport, maybe his black lightning, slow down, time, teleport, maybe his telekinesis. And he would do this, trying to like switch between quirks as he does this. So by the time he gets to the top, I think his time would be around 5 seconds, which is a lot faster than anyone else's try. And people would be like, "Wow, that's amazing." And Mirio would be like, "All right, let me see what I could do." So what Mirio would do is that he would sink into the ground and kind of shoot himself back up using a little bit of all for one, all one for all, in combination with his like permutation. So he would go through all of his obstacles, and when he turns himself solid again, that would give him a speed boost, because when he's in an object and he becomes solid again, since matter can't exist in two places, it just pushes him out as fast as it can. So he would just keep on doing that, and by the time he gets to the top, I think he would get around 10 seconds, which is also a lot faster than a lot of people there. And then Todoroki would do his, and he would get around 13, I think, or 14, around a little bit faster than Bakugo, basically, just like how he does in the actual movie. To kind of celebrate how well they did, they go to that kind of cafe, like I was saying earlier, and they discuss, how they got here and things like that, right? And they find out that Kaminari and Mineta are the waiters there, and they explain that they just took this job so they could come early, and when they're done on their breaks or things like that, they could actually go and explore the island. And then this is when Ida would come through and talk about how they're not, if they wanted to like work and get money, then they should be actually working. And you know, they have like, Ida's like, all right, I don't remember if I made him the class president in this one. I think I gave it to Midoriya in this one, and then have him as the kind of the vice rep, I guess. And Midoriya was like, all right, so as a class we gotta meet up at this place at this time, so we could all go to the party at once and represent UA. So at this point, I don't think Midoriya would go to what's to Melissa's room to get that full gauntlet. I think Muriel would go, since she would notice that he has the similar quirk to All Might, and he wasn't using like 100%. He was restricting himself, so he would go. And what Midoriya would do is he would kind of hang out with Jiro, since he wants to get closer to her. So Deku would be like, alright Jiro, where do you want to go? I could pretty much go anywhere I want with my teleportation. So the way that his teleportation works is that if he hasn't been there, he can't really teleport there, but if it's in like within like seeing distance, then he'd be able to teleport there. So that's kind of how his like teleportation works. And if he like holds on to someone while he does it, he's able to teleport with them. So that's kind of how his teleportation works. So they would kind of spend the afternoon kind of hanging out, going around the different parts of the island, and after a while he would get a call from Ida and says, where are you guys at? You know, the party's about to start, you guys should be here by already. So what Deku would be like, oh my gosh, it's late, we gotta get home. And then Deku would be like, okay, where are you guys staying right now? And Deku would basically teleport her to the closest he could get, because he was never actually there. He was just he never went to her her room, so he doesn't know exactly where it is, but he knows somewhat relatively, because his room should be near hers, since that's where all the guests stay. So that's what he would do. So when everyone gets to the actual like meeting place, they're all wearing their different suits and dresses. Deku he wears like a different version of what he's currently wearing, because it's not formal enough, I guess. So he has like a black, like nice black like suit, somewhat like All For One, but like more tidy. And I think Shinso would have like a kind of darker purple like suit to kind of match his hair. And same thing with Mirio. I think he would wear like a either like somewhat of a golden like suit, kind of like All Might, or he would wear like a pure white, like a white with like black, I guess you would call them trimmings, I don't know, kind of like suit. And you know, everyone be kind of ready to go through the party. And then this is when the girls come through and show off their dresses, and Deku would kind of compliment them on all how they look nice and things like that, right? And he would go up to Jiro in particular and talk about how her style is kind of simple, but like really nice. And she would ask him like, how come you didn't just wear your normal hero costume? And Deku would be like, well, for this occasion I didn't think it was, you know, fancy enough, so I started wearing this. And he would show off his like nice black suit, right? So Ida's like, well, since everyone's here, let's just go in. And right when he, like, before he tries to go through, this is when they would hear the alarm, and this is when they find out that the island was taken over by a few villains, and they have All Might and the others held hostage, right? And All Might doesn't do anything because he doesn't want anyone to like get hurt. So what they would do is that they would go through a different way, and they would go up to the next floor, and they would see All Might being held hostage with the other heroes. And Gerald would use her headphone jack to plug into the floor to hear what he was saying. And this is when they find out all the things that's been happening. So they run up a few flight of stairs, and they're like, alright, the island got taken over. What are we going to do? Are we going to wait for the other heroes, or are we actually going to do anything? And Deku, since he's more, I think he'd be more confident in this situation and be like, we need to save them. We need to stop these villains, right? And Mirio would be on board, and so would the others, because the kind of vibe that the two are putting off, I think they would agree faster than they do in the movie. So they would go up several flights of stairs until they were eventually locked out, and they would go through a different pathway. Then they would go up a few flights of stairs, and then the heroes or the villains would notice, and they would close off their path. And then this is when Mineta actually opens the door, which also triggers an alarm. So after they open the door, they would find themselves in that kind of large hallway. So they would walk through it, and then eventually the villains would notice where they're at, so they'd start closing down doors. So they'd be like, alright, they would start rushing it, and they were like, alright, Todoroki, stop it. Alright, then Todoroki would use his ice to kind of block the doorway from shutting, and then this is when everyone would get through. So this is when they walk into that like large kind of open area with all the plants, and they would hide through the bushes to see that there are people like coming. And this would be the two kind of henchmen that the main villain sends. And then they'd be like, then one of the henchmen would be like, what are you kids doing here? And they're thinking to themselves like, oh no, we gotta fight. And it turns out they were talking to Kirishima and Bakugo. And these villains were about to attack Bakugo and Kirishima, but before they could do any damage, this is when Todoroki actually makes like a wall of ice, and it actually blocks them. And he also sends Midoriya and the other people there up to the higher catwalk, so that they could go further. And he says, I'll stay here and help them out, but you guys need to go and stop the villains. So they would go and walk into the catwalk till they got to the room, and it would be locked. So they were like, okay, there's only one way to get through, and that's if someone goes through that small like tunnel to actually go and like take down the security ladder. And I think Mirio would be like, alright, I got it, since he has the ability of permutation. So what he would do is that he would do like a powerful jump, enough to where it would go through a few floors. So what he would do is that he would turn himself intangible as he does, and he would go through a few floors to get to the spot that he would need to take down the ladder. So Mineta doesn't have to go through, and it'd be a lot faster than it does in the movie. And I would say that at this point, I think Mirio would have like underwear that would be infused with his hair so it wouldn't fall off. So I don't know why he doesn't do that. I feel like eventually he should, because it makes sense, right? You're not gonna make all your clothes like have your hair in it, but at least have like your underwear so you don't like flash people. So they would continue going up until they got to a point where there was this kind of bridge, and it's the part where there's a bunch of security robots, So Kaminari's like, all right, let me get this, or let me do this, and he would be like, full, like 200 million volts, I think, discriminate shock, or indiscriminate. So I think Deku would also help, since he also has electricity powers. So the combination of both of them doing this, I think, would actually fry the circuits of the robots, since not only do you have Kaminari, but you also have Deku doing this as well, and his lightning should be a little bit stronger. So they would do this, and it'd basically fry the circuits, and then they would continue going on to the next floors. And then the next floor after that would be the one with the server room. And they don't want to go all out because it's going to damage the servers. So they decide to keep their their normal people. But I think that what's it called? I think Mirio would stay and help, since he could be there without like hurting the servers because of his intangibility. So it's easier for him to like hit the robots without damaging things in the background. So the normal people will actually stay behind. I think Shinso would go with Deku, and Uraraka and Melissa, since they need him to like disable things. Well, they need Melissa to disable the robots. So they would continue going up, and they would be on the roof. And Uraraka would basically, she would make, first off, Deku would be like holding on to Melissa and, what's his name, Shinso, because his quirk might help in this scenario, since he wasn't able to use it before because there were robots, but it might help this time. So they make them, Uraraka will make them weightless, and Deku using his strength, or Uraraka just like pushing them, he'd be able to get to where he needs to. And when before he hits the wall, he uses like he uses his like muscle augmentation quirk to basically bust through the wall. So when he gets to the floor that he needs to, this is when Uraraka would deactivate her quirk. But then this is when a bunch of those robots come by, and right when they're about to like she would make herself like float, right, to kind of get away from them. And then this is when Bakugo and Todoroki would come, and Mirio and the other class would come to kind of save them. So as they're like going up there, as Deku, Shinso, and the Melissa actually are on the next like roof, or not the roof, the next floor. This is when I think his name is Swordkill or something like that. The guy with that like sword quirk, right? He would come and try to like slice him, and I think Shinso would be able to dodge, since he's been training with Aizawa, which is mostly a hand-to-hand combat kind of like lesson, since Aizawa doesn't really have any like flashy quirks. So what Shinso would do is kind of like dodge him, and Midoriya would basically be able to like one-shot him with his muscle augmentation pretty easily, and they would rush to the next floor after that. And when they get there, they actually see their dad, or Melissa's dad, actually he's forced to give the quirk enhancer to what's his name? I think his name is like Wolfhard. I forgot. It's like tungsten in German, so I don't remember exactly how to pronounce it. And David would actually explain, or not David, Sam would explain why they did this and what's the actual motive. And Melissa would be shocked, like, Dad, is that actually true? Because she would never guess that her father would kind of go to this level just to get his like invention back. And before they could say like anything or do anything, Shinso would kind of shout out like, "What do you plan on doing with that device?" And Wolford would be like, "Are you an idiot? I'm going to sell this to the highest bidder and make as much cash as I can off of this invention." And then this is when Shinso would smile. Nice. And then Shinso would go up to him and kind of like, he would have like a pocket knife. And in the guy's mind, like, why can't I move? Like, what is this guy's quirk? And then this is when the other henchman that's there would be kind of shocked and not know what to do since his boss isn't moving. And then Shinso would kind of like lick the blood that's off his blade, because he would like do like a little cut on the guy's like face. This would get him out of mind control, but before the guy can do anything, this is when Shinso would lick the blood and kind of, you know, stop him from moving at all. And he'd be like, "All right, Midoriya, he's all yours." And then this is when Midoriya basically just comes and steals his quirk, right? Or yeah, he would know how his quirk would work because how he would use it before, like trying to attack him. Or you could say that Shinso made him confess, like, "What's your quirk?" And he would tell him, and then all those sequence of events would happen where Deku would come and take his quirk away, since he knew it. And since the guy can't move, he's able to easily do it. And as you know, this is happening to Wolford, he's just remembering like, "Oh my gosh, this is the kid that All For One was telling me about, not to fight him. And it looks like I failed." And he would take his quirk, and this is when Melissa would go and kind of turn off the security. And in this case, Sam would not get shot. Or I guess he would, but I'm not sure. And then I don't know what would happen to Dave, because it's never really explained in the movie. But I don't think he'd be charged with anything. And Dave would have that, you know, realization that the torch has been handed off to a different generation, and that they don't really need All Might, right? Because a newer generation is going to replace him. So with All Might getting, you know, out of his restraints, him and the other heroes would go and fight off the villains that are still there. So as it would basically be, this would be the ending, right? Where All Might meets with Dave again and talks about his actions and kind of like tells him that it was wrong to do so. And the authorities would come and pick up all the villains that were there. So after this was all done, we don't get that like double like smash between All Might and with All Might and Mario, because they were never put in that situation. So I think the rest of the time there, they would kind of hang out like they do in the credits. And Shinso and Midoriya would become closer friends because of this, saying that it was a great idea, Shinso, to mind control him and then to use their other quirk at the same time. So yeah, I think I'll end it here. I'd like to say that I'm very grateful for, you know, the 600 subscribers that I've gotten. Like I said earlier, I made a Twitter, so go follow that if you want to like directly message me for you know, what is, things like that, right? And also you know, that review that I did of Kaguya-sama, go check that out. I want to get that average watch time up a bit, just so I know that people actually care about that type of content. So with that being said, this is going to be the end of the video. So yeah,